So I'm convinced that we'll now see a new position arising in British industry, and that is, if you don't do what you're told, you're out, you're dismissed. And that'll become, I think, a major factor in the way the British industry approaches the trade union movement, unless the trade union movement they begin to mobilise. We've got to come together at some point.
We're innocent, but if they revealed our case, we'll be guilty anyway, because it's the way that things has been done, you know, through NCB, and NCB, police and courts is working together, and they have done from the beginning of the strike, and they still are doing now.
The Crowley was used as a police command centre. The police were based here every day. But the tactics that were used by the police were, you know, had to be seen to be believed. The use of police video cameras behind the Crowley wall, the use of cameras with telephoto lens on to pick people out. Many things, you know, people picked up and said, well, this just couldn't happen in 1984 in England.
Maybe in coming into a situation where the specialised equipment will become more commonplace, and workers hoping to demonstrate on marches or in a static demonstration will find themselves faced with this kind of police action.
Our lads is in prison, they're sacked. Chief Constable came on television and said, look, I know my lads is not perfect. What charges have been brought against them? How many of them are behind bars? And the quicker we try and stop this, the better. Because it started with minors. It's not going to end there.
It's about time they got organised and kicked up at traces, and I can't think of a better objective to start it off with than this amnesty for these lads, because this is unprecedented. They sent Tolpuddle martyrs out to Australia years ago. Eventually they were allowed back. These lads are never going to get back if it's left to this government. They're always on about the fighting unemployment, this government. They want to do what they can for unemployment, etc. And yet they're taking lads' jobs away from them after they've already paid for the original crime, whether they were guilty or not. And it takes some swallowing.
And most managers now, since the strike, have gone on record as saying, what I say goes. In other words, the old conciliation machinery regarding different issues at the pit is finished. If you take the dismissals, they're now completely ignoring things like the Employment Protection Act. You know, you don't get warnings, they don't go through a procedure, they just dismiss you.
Well, 203 men are sacked in Scotland at this present time. None of them, I have to say, by the way, have been charged with any more serious offence than breaching the peace or obstruction. I would say that 75% of the men are union officials or have been activists during the strike. These guys have just been hand-picked.
The fight still goes on as far as we're concerned. There were a man going into his work and my husband was trying to speak to that man because he had every right to speak to that man. He was his union delegate, but police wouldn't allow him to speak to that man. And my husband was subsequently arrested for breach of the peace and sacked.
There's a lot of them that are in jail for trumped-up charges. Simply don't say so, police that happen to be there. They've had orders, take so many today. They've done that, and then lads have been charged, they've been brought to court, they've been found guilty, they've been sent to prison. For doing nothing, only fighting, standing on a picket line and fighting what they believe is wrong.
I mean, they had photos. I mean, they had the men picked out that they wanted to arrest. I mean, what charge, I mean, you say, what have I done? And they kind of turn and they start to jostle you. Before you know where you are, it's a breach of the peace.
We've got to campaign for them as well. There's a lad, UCAT, Peter Gates from London. Brilliant lad. He stood on picket lines with us, collected thousands of pounds for NUM and he's doing a year in jail for getting arrested on a miners' picket line.
Now these offences are very serious. There is no maximum sentence of imprisonment. It's unlimited, so that the sentence could be anything upon a conviction. And in fact, the miners' strike saw more people charged with these offences than ever before.
And nobody knew anything about this procedure. It was all very secret. It wasn't even known, I believe, to lower ranks in the police force. But the procedure laid down what were really paramilitary operations against civilian demonstrators, and they included advancing on them with shields, letting the police horses go in at a canter to frighten the crowds, included the instructions to police constables with truncheons to go in and incapacitate demonstrators.
You know, some of them lads had terrible injuries. And there were some old people here that got knocked from pillar to post, that were there purely to peacefully demonstrate as regards why we should be fighting for our jobs.
And I think the Home Secretary came up to Nottingham at one stage and said life sentences might be there. And yet before the end of the prosecution case, that's to say before any defence arguments had been presented, they decided to withdraw the case.
And it became apparent that through that trial, with regard to riot shields and horses, all that had been planned. And they made the riot on that particular day.
So it's been clear that there's been political sentence dished out to people. And what happened in South Wales, where the lads were unfortunately given life sentences for murder, where most people said it was only manslaughter, quite clearly shows the decisions that's been taken by the courts. So I think other trade unions should take heed of the kind of justice that's been meted out to people.
There you are, poor lads that fought and are now suffering. Now I do think that it is up to the rest of the trade union movement to move to help these lads now. For Christ's sake, don't let them rot away in prisons.
And these jail sentences are all sent from her, heavy. It's for all trade unions, this. And these are the examples. The miners are being made the examples. In other words, don't you dare do it. You just look at your mates, the miners, what I've done to them. I know she quipped and always stated, I'm not behind it. But by God, she was pushing. She was pushing bloody hard, that woman. And she's pushing the judges now for the miners.
How vindictive and how far and how much this government and this system will pay to smash the working class and the trade union movement. That's the biggest lesson we should have learned. There would be no jail miners or no sack miners if they hadn't provoked that, well, war against the unions to try and close pits. And there's no arguments at all. Nobody can stand up to me and argue about they should be in jail or their men should be sacked. They should all be reinstated, every single one of them. Because all they done was fight for the right to work.
It's essential that we keep together. And it's essential for all women's groups to keep together in their own areas if we've got sack miners to look after them. And to keep these sack miners in the public opinion alive, that they're still there, that they're still sacked.
They are showing the men that, look, we standing here. You don't desert your pit. Fight to save it. Because our fight was right. It's always been right. And what Arthur Scargill has been saying for years now has been proved right. The Court will intend to have a major pit closure programme, and that's been bulldozed through. But I think if we actively campaign and highlight this throughout the wider labour and trade union movement, it's starting to stick. It's starting to affect Thatcher. And there's people in the labour and trade union movement are going to be kept aware of the struggle, and we're going to keep on going till we do get them reinstated.